We are gonna talk about boats. This project, this part of my Mina Ashiro from Kaiju 8 was much more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I'm not gonna lie, I think we might keep a tally on just how many breakdowns I had trying to do this project, and I'm pretty sure I crafted too close to the sun. I got a little bit big for my britches, as they would say. I assumed that because I was getting better at creating my own patterns and that I have in the past been quite successful at making boot covers, that I could just make boots from bottom up. This is not the case. I actually filmed an intro to this where I was talking about how I was going to do all these great things, and I am here to tell you now that I did not do all of these great things. I failed horribly, and in the end, I used up most of my available fabric, or vinyl is what I was making it out of, and had to go out and buy more material. I had to reconstruct the entire design in order to turn it into a boot cover, and then I almost did not have enough to match my boots to my bracers, which were to be made out of the same material. I was scrabbling and reusing scraps and bits that I had cut off or cast aside from the beginning, and that is what we ended up with. So I will show you me going through the process, and then in the end I will show you what we ended up with. So these used to be my favorite boots, but the soles are coming off, as you can see here. I definitely wore them out. There's not a whole much life left to them, but I need boots for my Mina Ashiro costume for Kaiju 8. These fit amazing, but they're not going to do very good on an everyday basis. So what the plan is to do with these is I'm just going to finish taking the boot part off of the sole, and we're going to disassemble all of the pieces of this and recreate this boot in some material that I have on hand. This is material I got from a friend, and we're going to take this material and remake my boot out of it. I'm going to try to preserve as much of the boot as possible. I'm hoping that the interior structure I can reuse to keep that stiffness to the boot when I am done, but we'll see how things come apart when I start separating them. If this doesn't work out, I can always make boot covers, but I was hoping to kind of thrift my way through this and preserve one of my favorite pairs of boots that I've ever had. So let's see how this works out.
With all of my shoe pieces taken apart, I want to kind of copy all of these pieces into pattern pieces. The only thing that I want to change is this here. I don't want laces in the front of my boot, so we're going to come up with a pattern piece using the shoe I haven't taken apart. We're going to make a pattern piece to go along the front of this shoe to kind of fill in that gap so that I don't have a seam here right in the front, because I don't like the look of that, but I also don't have to have laces. Essentially, it's going to be like the tongue of the shoe, kind of, but attached to the front of the boot, kind of like that. So I might even use part of this as somewhat of a pattern. We'll see. Then I'm gonna mock it out. I don't have any kind of material that I can mock it out with that is this stiffness, so we'll just have to use some random cottons, like quilting cottons that I have on hand, to kind of mock it out, and hopefully it mocks out well enough for me to determine whether or not it's going to fit and work together. But before I do all of that, I do have to copy all of these pattern pieces down and make sure that I have them all figured out. So I have a change of plans. I started making a mock-up with this added piece in the front that I was kind of filling in the shoelace portion of the boot with, and I didn't like how it was fitting with all the other pieces. And then I remembered there was some kind of like chevron details. I don't know if you can see it here. Chevron details inside the boot shape that was going to be difficult to accomplish the way that I was working on this. So we're going to go back to our cosplay roots, and we're going to saran wrap this boot that I am using as a base and do our masking tape profile of it and break it down into pieces and see if we can make it work that way.
Since a lot of what I do is super experimental, things like making boots, which is what I'm working on in this case, can be trial and error. So I took apart the matching boot to this and used it to kind of figure out what kinds of shapes I was going to need for shoes, and how the shoes were assembled. What kinds of layers they had, and what kinds of stitchings were used. And I copied a lot of the pattern. I was attempting to recreate almost exactly the same boot, but without lacing down the front. The problem ended up being that the pattern making on it wasn't working out. So I went back to the kind of traditional cosplay way of creating a masking tape kind of mummy out of the boot, and then drawing on where I wanted my style lines and my seams to go, and then creating that as a flat pattern. Then attempting to assemble that, because the fabric is going in such interesting curves and things, you almost need a stiffer fabric in order to be able to manipulate it the way that you would do with the shoe. So I'm finding out now that if I want to make a mock-up, I'm going to have to use stiffer material. So I'm at an impasse where I have to make one of two decisions. I either have to go find mock-up fabric, or I need to just kind of go for it, because I don't have any fabric that I can use as a test run. And why the test run is going to be so important for this project is because I'm working with vinyl. And not only am I working with vinyl, but I'm working with a very limited amount of vinyl. I don't have any more of it. I got it from a thrift store, so I don't have access to find any more of it. So if I ruin this vinyl, I will have to go to the store and find something new. The other thing about vinyl is that because it is like a leather or a plastic, if I punch a hole into it, either by pinning it together in order to sew it, or in the sewing machine itself, and I mess up a stitch and I have to stitch pick, I'm going to have all of these leftover punctures behind from any time a needle goes through the material. So what I have to do is going to be very precise, and it's going to be one time. I get one opportunity to do this. So I have to take it slow, and I have to be really careful about what I'm doing. So even though I mocked this up, the fabric isn't really great at becoming shoe shaped because these softer cottons just aren't doing it. So I'm going to just have to experiment one way or another and decide from there how I feel about it.
Okay, so we've got the band on the top here. Next thing I've got to do is cut in a spot for a zipper. We'll put the zipper in, and then once I've got that cut out, it's going to be easier to put the little blocks on the front and on the back, because I'll be able to open up and lay flat the material of the boot a little bit better. And these are going to have to be hand stitched on. There's no easy way to do this on a machine, so I will end up having to hand stitch these into place onto the outside of the boot. So today is a gluing day. Don't look at that. That's not for today. That's my painting stuff. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, today is my gluing day. We're gonna glue a whole bunch of stuff. Right now, the boots are to the point where I can glue the outer covering onto the existing boots. Right now, they're just pinned into place, and then I can, what I'll do is I'll lift the pin, spread some glue, put the pin back in, and go around the boot that way.
So in the end, I was successful in creating something that I am decently happy with, but it was not what I had originally planned. This is the boot I ended up with. It is a boot cover. Turns out I can't make a boot from the bottom up, right? So it is a boot cover. I went out, I purchased other boots, and this is what we've got. It turned out decently well. It looks good for a boot, but again, it's not my original design. And these are the kinds of things that happen when you cosplay. You have to kind of pivot, and you have to learn that sometimes you're not capable of what you thought you were capable of. But that's okay, and we will get there. Maybe one day. If not, I don't think it's necessary to make your own boots. It was just something that I thought maybe I could do. And we live and we learn, right? But I do have pretty decent little boot here, so at least there's that.